Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something powerful. A man doesn't miss you because you text him every morning, because you chase his attention, or because you remind him you exist. He misses you when your presence leaves an imprint so strong that your absence feels unbearable. He misses you when the silence between moments becomes louder than the words you've spoken. He misses you when you are so unforgettable, so rare, that no one else can replace the way you made him feel. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to create that kind of impact. When you want someone to miss you, the instinct is often to do the opposite of what actually works. Most people think missing is created by constant reminders of who you are, by staying present in someone's life, by filling every gap so they never forget you. But the truth is, missing someone is created in the spaces in between. It's not about overwhelming a person with your presence. It's about creating moments of absence that highlight your value. If someone is going to miss you like crazy, it won't happen because you were always there. It will happen because your presence made such an impact that when you're not there, it feels like something is missing. Imagine a song you love. If it played on repeat all day long, without pause, eventually the magic would dull. You wouldn't crave it because there would be no silence to make you long for the melody. Human connection works the same way. When you learn how to strike the balance between closeness and distance, you create a rhythm that keeps someone tuned into you. That space makes them realize that what you bring isn't just nice, it's irreplaceable. But here's the mistake so many people make. They confuse creating space with playing games. There's a difference between deliberately pulling away to manipulate someone and confidently knowing that your life is full enough that you don't need to be glued to anyone. Games create anxiety and mistrust. A full life creates attraction. The person who makes a man miss her like crazy isn't the one who tries to engineer his emotions. It's the one who's too busy living to obsess over how often he texts. That natural rhythm of being engaged in your own world makes him realize that being in yours is a privilege, not a guarantee. When a man feels your presence, he should feel energized, uplifted, inspired. That's what makes the absence so powerful. If you show up with drama, neediness, or a desperate pull for reassurance, your presence drains instead of enriches. And when that happens, your absence becomes a relief instead of a loss. The real key to being missed is not just being gone, but being someone worth longing for when you're not there. You want every interaction to leave behind an emotional aftertaste, something that lingers in his mind long after the conversation has ended. Think about the last time you walked away from someone and kept replaying their words, their smile, or the way they made you feel. It wasn't because they clung to you. It was because they gave you something that sparked your imagination. They created a memory worth returning to. The way you make a man miss you like crazy is by being intentional in those moments together. Listen deeply, bring laughter, share your passions, and be unapologetically authentic. Then step back. Don't smother the spark. Let him feel the contrast of your absence. That contrast is where missing grows. A man begins to miss you most when he realizes you're not chasing him. That shift in energy is profound. The moment you stop investing every ounce of your attention into what he's doing or not doing, you show him that your life isn't orbiting around his. You become unpredictable in the best way. You're not always available, not because you're avoiding him, but because you're actually busy, actually fulfilled, actually living. That unpredictability is magnetic. It makes him wonder where you are, what you're doing, and who you're doing it with. And that wondering creates the longing. Confidence plays a crucial role here. Confidence is not about arrogance or pretending you don't care. It's about knowing your worth whether he notices it or not. When you exude that calm self-assuredness, he starts to feel like he could lose something special if he doesn't hold on to it. Missing someone is directly tied to fear of loss. If he knows you're always there, no matter how he behaves, there's no urgency. But when he feels your independence, when he senses that you're not afraid to walk away, his instincts kick in. Suddenly, he can't get you out of his head. Think of it like this: when you leave a conversation on a high note, instead of dragging it out until it fizzles, he'll replay that moment again and again. When you share just enough of yourself without giving everything away, he'll crave the parts of you he hasn't yet discovered. When you show up radiant, enthusiastic, and alive, then step away without demanding constant attention, you create a hunger in him. He begins to feel the contrast between how he feels with you and how he feels without you, and that contrast keeps him hooked. You don't need to punish a man into missing you. Silence born out of anger or coldness doesn't create desire, it creates resentment. What makes him miss you is warmth paired with boundaries. Be generous with your energy when you're together, but protective of it when you're not. If he calls, don't always answer on the first ring. If he texts, you don't need to respond within seconds. Not because you're playing games, but because your life has layers that don't revolve around him. Every time he realizes you're not waiting by the phone, he feels a twinge of urgency to secure more of your time. That's missing. Another overlooked piece of this is emotional availability. Many people think making someone miss you is only about physical absence, but it's equally about emotional pacing. If you reveal everything about yourself immediately, there's no mystery left. Mystery isn't about being fake or withholding. It's about letting someone discover you layer by layer. When you share your thoughts gradually, when you let your story unfold over time, you give him something to look forward to. Anticipation is the fuel of missing. Energy is also contagious. When your energy is heavy, anxious, or needy, he doesn't long for it, he avoids it. But when your energy is light, joyful, playful, and deeply self-assured, he will crave it. Men, like everyone, are drawn to what feels good. If being around you feels like sunshine, then when you're gone, he'll feel the cold. That's when the ache of missing kicks in. And finally, it's important to remember that the point isn't just to make him miss you. It's to create a connection worth missing. Don't focus so much on absence that you forget the presence. Give him memories that echo in his mind, the sound of your laugh, the way you make him feel seen, the excitement of your conversations, the confidence in the way you carry yourself. If he has nothing to miss, your absence won't matter. But if your presence is unforgettable, your absence will be unbearable. If your presence is unforgettable, your absence will be unbearable. But unforgettable presence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from authenticity. It comes from the willingness to show both your light and your shadows, to let someone see the spark in your eyes when you talk about what excites you, and also the quiet strength you hold when things get tough. People don't miss perfection, they miss humanity. They miss the unique blend of qualities that nobody else can replicate. And when a man experiences that blend with you, it stamps itself onto his memory in a way that lingers long after you're gone. The truth is, most people underestimate the power of restraint. They believe that in order to be remembered, they need to give more, share more, show up more. But often, it's the restraint that makes someone crave you. It's leaving a little unsaid, leaving a little unseen that keeps curiosity alive. If you tell every story, share every thought, and reveal every piece of yourself too quickly, you rob someone of the joy of discovery. But when you pace it, when you let him peel back the layers over time, he becomes invested. He looks forward to the next moment, the next reveal, the next glimpse of who you are. That anticipation doesn't just build attraction, it builds longing. Think about the way people miss experiences. We miss a holiday, not because it was constant, but because it was fleeting. We miss a favorite restaurant when it closes, not because we ate there every day, but because we experienced it enough to form a memory, and then it was gone. The rarity is what sharpens desire. If he feels like your presence is a given, it loses its sharpness. But if he knows that being around you is something he has to earn, protect, and cherish, then every moment becomes more valuable. And when it's not there, the absence becomes amplified. What makes someone unforgettable is not just what they do for others, but the way they make people feel about themselves. When you create moments that lift someone's sense of who they are, you build an emotional anchor in their heart. When he walks away from you feeling seen, respected, admired, and inspired, he's not just thinking about you, he's thinking about the version of himself that exists when he's with you. And when you're not there, he misses not just your presence, but that version of himself. That's one of the most powerful ways to become irreplaceable. This is why generosity of spirit matters. It doesn't mean overgiving or bending until you break. It means giving in a way that leaves someone touched, but still leaves something in reserve. It's the art of lighting up a room and then leaving before the flame burns out. Too often, people confuse generosity with constant availability. But the most magnetic kind of generosity is when you give deeply in the moment and then you step back, leaving space for someone to reflect on what they just experienced. That reflection is where the missing grows. Missing also comes from contrast. If every day feels the same, there's no reason to long for it. But if you create moments that stand out, moments of laughter, moments of depth, moments of adventure, they punctuate the ordinary with the extraordinary. Later, when he's back in the routine of his life, it's those punctuated moments he'll replay in his head. He'll remember the way you looked at him when you listened. The way your laughter broke tension in a room, the way you carried yourself with a confidence that was contagious. Those contrasts turn into cravings because they highlight what's lacking when you're not around. There's also something magnetic about independence. A man misses the woman who is not only with him, but also without him. Someone who has passions, routines, friendships, and goals that don't include him at every step. That independence isn't a threat. It's a reminder that you're a whole person. When he sees that your happiness isn't dependent on his attention, it flips a switch in his mind. He starts to realize that your presence in his life isn't an obligation, it's a choice. And that choice, once recognized, becomes addictive. Because now he's aware that at any point you could choose differently. That awareness makes every moment more urgent, more precious, more missable. There's another element that people often overlook: playfulness. Playfulness is a form of energy that lingers. When you bring lightness, when you create joy, when you inject a sense of fun into moments, those feelings echo long after the moment is over. A man who laughs with you will think about that laughter later when the day feels heavy. He'll crave the levity, the sense of ease, the spark of play. And when it's not there, he'll feel the void. Playfulness is one of those qualities that can't be manufactured. It has to come from a place of genuine joy in life. Cultivate it and you'll be remembered for how you made him feel, not just what you did. But as important as joy is, depth matters just as much. Surface level connections rarely leave a lasting impression. What makes someone miss you isn't just that you were fun to be around. It's that you touched something deeper. It's when you asked a question that made him think, when you shared a perspective that stayed with him, when you created a safe space where he could be vulnerable. Those deeper layers are the ones that resurface when he's alone, when the noise of the world fades. He'll remember the feeling of being truly understood, and he'll crave that connection again. Patience is another secret ingredient. Missing isn't built in a moment, it's built over time. It requires consistency without suffocation. It requires showing up with quality, not quantity. If you try to rush it, if you force it, you smother the very spark you're trying to ignite. But if you trust the process, if you allow him to experience both your presence and your absence in a natural rhythm, the bond grows stronger. It's not about instant gratification. It's about creating an impression that compounds with every interaction. When you step away, you allow him to step forward. Space creates initiative. If you're always filling the silence, always driving the interaction, he never has the chance to feel the impulse to reach out, to pursue, to show up. Missing is built when he feels that impulse and acts on it. But he can only feel it if you leave the space for it. That's why restraint is so powerful. It gives him the opportunity to choose you. And every time he chooses, the connection deepens. There's also something magnetic about mystery. Not the kind that comes from being secretive or distant, but the kind that comes from living a layered life. When he knows that there are parts of you he hasn't yet discovered, he'll be drawn to keep coming back. When he senses that your world is rich and textured, filled with dreams, experiences, and ambitions that extend beyond him, he'll be compelled to step further into it. That curiosity turns into longing because he wants to experience more of what he hasn't yet seen. Energy, once again, is everything. If your energy says, I need you to validate me, it pushes him away. But if your energy says, I am whole, I am vibrant, and I choose to share that with you, it pulls him closer. That energy is irresistible because it signals security instead of scarcity. Missing someone is about scarcity, about recognizing that something rare and valuable isn't always within reach. When your energy communicates that you're not trying to be everywhere, not trying to be everything, but simply being fully yourself, you become that rare and valuable presence. And here's the final truth: being missed is not the goal. The goal is to live so fully, so authentically, so richly, that missing you becomes inevitable. You don't chase it, you don't force it, you embody it. You create a life so magnetic that anyone who experiences it feels the void when you're not there. That's how you make a man miss you like crazy, not by clinging tighter, but by shining brighter until the absence of your light makes the world feel dimmer. until the absence of your light makes the world feel dimmer. Because light is not something you tell people to notice. It's something they can't help but notice. The truth about making someone miss you isn't in tricks or manipulation, but in becoming unforgettable through the way you live, the way you carry yourself, and the way you make them feel. A person can only miss what feels rare, and rarity comes from courage. The courage to stand in your worth, the courage to set boundaries, the courage to walk away if something doesn't serve you. That courage is magnetic because it communicates strength, and strength is what people admire and long for when it's not around. Think of how people miss leaders, mentors, or friends who changed the way they saw themselves. They don't miss them because they were always available, always saying yes. They miss them because their presence shifted something inside. That's the energy you want to embody, the energy of someone who leaves an imprint after every encounter. And that imprint doesn't have to come from grand gestures. Often, it comes from the smallest details, the warmth in your smile, the way you listen without distraction, the sense of calm you bring into chaotic moments. These subtle traits become the invisible threads that weave their way into someone's memory until they can't help but notice when those threads are gone. What amplifies missing even more is consistency. If you're unpredictable in a chaotic way, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, sometimes kind, sometimes dismissive, it doesn't create longing, it creates confusion. But if you're consistent in your energy, consistent in your values, consistent in the way you show up, then people feel safe with you. And once someone feels safe with you, they notice the absence of that safety when you're not there. Consistency creates trust, and trust creates attachment. That attachment is the foundation for missing because it makes your presence feel like home. But presence without boundaries isn't presence, it's pressure. If you're always available, always saying yes, always stretching yourself to fit someone else's world, you lose the very thing that makes you magnetic. Missing happens in the contrast between availability and absence, between closeness and space. If there's never any space, there's nothing to miss. That's why having your own standards, your own boundaries, your own life outside of him is not just healthy, it's essential. It communicates that your time is valuable, your attention is precious, and your world is abundant. And when someone realizes they don't automatically have access to it, they crave it more deeply. Another layer to this is the way you exit moments. Most people think impact is about what happens at the beginning, but the truth is the way you leave often determines how strongly you're remembered. If you leave a conversation while the energy is still high, if you walk away while the laughter is still ringing, if you end the evening with a spark instead of waiting for it to fizzle, you leave behind a craving. People remember how something ends, and if you learn to exit on a high note, you'll linger in someone's thoughts far longer than if you overstay. We've all had moments where someone left us wanting just a little more. Maybe it was a story they didn't finish, a smile they left halfway, or an evening that ended before it became too long. That wanting is where missing is born. If you give everything away all at once, there's nothing left to anticipate. But if you leave moments slightly unfinished, if you let curiosity remain alive, then the mind keeps circling back. It replays, it imagines, it longs. That longing is the seed of missing, and the more skillfully you cultivate it, the more unforgettable you become. Now think about energy in terms of memory. People don't miss what was average. They don't miss what blended in. They miss what stood out, what made them feel alive, what awakened something in them. If you spend your time trying to be agreeable, trying to fit in, trying to avoid standing out, you rob yourself of the very uniqueness that makes people ache for you later. What makes someone miss you is the courage you had to be distinct. The way you expressed your quirks, the way you laughed too loudly at something, the way you stood firm on your values when it would have been easier to conform, that uniqueness becomes a signature. And when it's absent, the absence feels sharper because it's irreplaceable. Patience is the unsung hero of all of this. In a world that moves fast, where instant responses and instant gratification dominate, patience is rare. But patience is where power lies. Missing cannot be rushed. It grows in silence, in time, in the space between moments. If you're always filling the silence, always demanding reassurance, always looking for signs, you don't give the natural rhythm of missing a chance to work. Silence is not your enemy, it's your ally. When you allow silence, you allow someone to feel your absence. And in that absence, the value of your presence becomes magnified. Missing is also tied to imagination. People long for what they imagine, not just what they experienced. If you leave space for imagination, you stay alive in someone's mind. Share enough of yourself to create a powerful memory, but not so much that there's nothing left to discover. Share moments that spark curiosity and let that curiosity echo when you're gone. The mind loves to fill in blanks. And when you leave some blanks unfilled, you stay present in his thoughts even when you're not physically there. But let's not forget the importance of self-respect. Without it, all of this collapses. A man cannot miss someone who abandons herself for him because that abandonment makes her invisible. What he misses is the presence of someone who knows her worth, who holds her standards, who doesn't trade authenticity for approval. Self-respect is magnetic because it's rare, and when he encounters it, it makes him sit up straighter, try harder, show up more. When it's gone, he doesn't just miss the person, he misses the way her presence challenged him to be more. Think about how we miss challenges in life. We miss the coach who pushed us harder, the mentor who didn't accept mediocrity, the moments that made us stronger. In relationships, it's the same. People miss those who challenged them, not in a harsh or critical way, but in a way that raised the bar. When you embody high standards, when you refuse to settle for less, you don't just attract respect, you create desire. And when you're not around, that desire doesn't fade, it intensifies. Because he's not just missing you, he's missing the elevated version of himself that your presence inspired. The ability to inspire is another secret to being missed. Inspiration lingers. When someone leaves you feeling fired up about your goals, when they spark a new perspective, when they ignite motivation, their energy stays with you long after they're gone. That's what you want to embody. Someone who doesn't just fill space, but someone who elevates space. If he associates you with growth, with possibility, with expansion, then every time you're not there, the absence feels heavier. Because it's not just about missing you, it's about missing the progress that happens when you're near. And finally, remember this, being missed is not about scarcity of presence alone, it's about abundance of impact. If your presence brings richness, then your absence creates longing. If your presence is forgettable, then your absence won't matter. So focus on impact, focus on authenticity, focus on living so fully with such vibrancy that your energy becomes etched into his memory. Then, when the silence comes, when the space opens, when the distance is felt, missing you won't be optional. It will be inevitable. It will be inevitable because inevitability isn't created by chance. It's created by intention. The way you show up in every moment builds the foundation of whether or not someone feels your absence when you're gone. And the truth is, people don't miss those who disappear without ever making a mark. They miss those who show up with presence, with depth, with conviction, and then step away leaving echoes behind. Those echoes are what keep replaying in the quiet. Those echoes are what tug at someone when they least expect it. The art of being missed is really the art of contrast. Without contrast, nothing stands out. Imagine a painting without shadows. It would feel flat, lifeless, unmemorable. Your presence needs contrast too. If you are constantly available, constantly saying yes, constantly pouring without pause, the contrast is lost. But when you step back, when you let there be space, the beauty of your presence becomes sharper. Absence is the shadow that makes the light of your presence glow more brightly. The people who understand this create not just desire, but devotion. One of the greatest truths about missing is that it's tied to energy investment. We value what we invest in. If someone hasn't had to earn you, if you've made yourself endlessly accessible without any boundaries, they haven't invested much. And without investment, there's no true value. When you hold your standards, when you require respect, when you let people step up to meet you, instead of always lowering yourself to meet them, they begin to invest. And when someone invests, they form an attachment. That attachment is what makes your absence uncomfortable. It's not punishment, it's psychology. What is earned is cherished, and what is cherished is missed. Think of how scarcity shapes value in every area of life. A diamond isn't valuable because it's everywhere. It's valuable because it's rare, because it can't be easily replaced, because finding one requires effort. Your presence works the same way. If it's abundant without limit, it becomes ordinary. If it's given to anyone at any time without discernment, it loses its edge. But when it's rare, when it's given with care, when it's offered with intentionality, it becomes precious. And when something precious is absent, the absence feels profound. But here's the crucial piece: scarcity alone isn't enough. People don't miss what's scarce if it doesn't add value when it's present. The diamond is valuable not only because it's rare, but because of its brilliance, its sparkle, the way it catches light. So your presence must be valuable while it's there. It must uplift, inspire, challenge, ignite, and comfort. When your presence brings something extraordinary, your absence becomes extraordinary too. If your presence is forgettable, scarcity won't save it. If your presence is unforgettable, scarcity multiplies its power. That's why authenticity is so vital. Pretending to be someone you're not, acting from insecurity, trying to be what you think someone wants. You may win attention in the short term, but you won't be missed in the long term. People don't miss masks, they miss essence. They miss the irreplaceable energy that comes only from someone who is aligned with themselves. Authenticity creates a unique fingerprint in someone's life, and when you leave, that fingerprint cannot be replicated. That's when the missing begins to gnaw. Another dimension of being missed is vulnerability. Many people misunderstand this, thinking vulnerability means oversharing or exposing everything. But real vulnerability is about letting someone see your truth in a way that creates intimacy. It's about lowering your guard just enough that they glimpse the depth beneath the surface. That glimpse is what people remember. That glimpse is what they play back in their minds when you're not around. Because vulnerability is rare. Most people live behind walls, hiding their true selves. When you let someone see a piece of the real you, it stays with them. And when you're gone, they long for that rare honesty again. What makes someone crave your presence is also the way you balance being nurturing with being inspiring. If you only nurture, you risk becoming safe but unexciting. If you only inspire, you risk becoming exciting but distant. But when you embody both, when you can be a source of comfort and a spark of fire, you create a dynamic tension that people crave. That dynamic energy is what he'll miss because it's not one-dimensional, it's layered. It makes him feel both held and challenged, both safe and alive. That balance is rare, and rarity breeds longing. Consider the importance of pacing. Many people sabotage being missed by giving too much too soon. They flood the connection with constant attention, constant communication, constant reassurance. But pacing is what keeps the tension alive. Just like a great story unfolds gradually, just like a great meal is savored course by course, your presence must be paced. Each interaction leaves him wanting more, not exhausted from too much. That pacing creates rhythm, and rhythm is what makes someone's absence felt. Without rhythm, there's only noise. With rhythm, there's music, and music lingers. Another layer is unpredictability, but not in a chaotic or inconsistent way. It's about bringing freshness. If every interaction is predictable, it becomes routine, and routine rarely creates longing. But if you bring a sense of novelty, a sense of adventure, a sense that there's always something new to discover, then your absence feels dull in comparison. When he doesn't know exactly what to expect, but knows it will always be enriching, then even in the quiet moments without you, he feels the pull to experience that again. Missing is also tied to emotional imprinting. Humans don't just remember what happened, they remember how they felt. If your presence makes him feel alive, makes him feel valued, makes him feel excited, those feelings don't vanish when you walk away. They echo, they become anchors. And when he's without you, he feels the absence of those feelings. He doesn't just miss you, he misses the version of himself that comes alive around you. That's why the most magnetic presence isn't one that seeks validation, but one that gives someone an experience of themselves they can't replicate elsewhere. You have to understand longing is not logical. It's not built on a checklist of qualities. It's built on emotions. Logic doesn't keep someone awake at night replaying moments. It's emotion that does that. So your goal is not to convince someone to miss you. It's to create emotional moments that etch themselves into memory. Those emotions, whether joy, excitement, depth, or inspiration, become the triggers for missing. And every time he feels the absence of that emotion, he feels the absence of you. And let's not forget the power of silence. Most people are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it with words, with messages, with noise. But silence is where missing lives. Silence is where someone has time to reflect, to feel, to realize the value of what's not there. Don't be afraid of silence. Don't see it as rejection. See it as the fertile ground where longing grows. When you resist the urge to overfill, you give space for desire to bloom. All of this ultimately comes down to alignment. When your life is aligned, when you're living fully, when your days are filled with purpose and passion, your energy radiates in a way that others cannot ignore. That alignment makes you magnetic, and magnetism is always missed when it's absent. People may not even understand why they can't stop thinking about you. They may not be able to articulate it, but they'll feel it because alignment carries an invisible power. It's the power of someone who is whole, who doesn't need validation, who doesn't shrink, who doesn't cling. That wholeness is irresistible, and when it's not there, the void is undeniable. So if you want someone to miss you like crazy, don't focus on chasing them, convincing them, or demanding their attention. Focus on becoming unforgettable in the moments you do share. Focus on bringing value, depth, joy, authenticity, and presence. Then trust the silence, trust the space. Trust that what you've given will echo in their mind and heart when you're not there. Because when your presence is powerful enough, your absence will do all the work for you.